Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High God Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach Wamalak Yahushai, right? A mighty shalom to the brothers that's out there and on the highways and byways, making their body a living sacrifice, right? Keeping the commandments and having faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Shalom. Shalom also to the mighty Akwath out there, right? Holding it down in the household, right? Being obedient and submissive unto their husbands, and now here teaching the younger sisters how to be that righteous woman of the Lord, right? Mighty Shalom, right? Today on this Mapogo Monday, right, we're going to be going through basically the making of Jacob's children, right? Also known as those 12 tribes, man, right? So we're going to hop right into it, right? So let's get Genesis. Genesis chapter 28, all right? Because this is something to refresh on, kind of knowing how your forefather, right, bared ultimately 11 children, right, and how they came to be, right, and having a more understanding of your forefather Jacob, right, and what type of man he was, right. Knowing this story, right, Jacob, he served some time with Laban, which was Rachel and Leah's father, right? He served some time just to get his wife, right? He wanted Rachel. He worked 7 years for Rachel, but didn't get Rachel, right? He ended up getting Leah, right? He worked another 7 years to get Rachel, and he ended up getting Rachel at the end of those 7 years, right? And then they started to make children. But we're going to get a little bit more into this story and actually reading from Genesis, a part of Genesis chapter 28 and the rest of Genesis chapter 29, right, to get that more understanding of how Jacob's children were made, and ultimately getting a more understanding of your forefather Jacob, right? So this is Genesis, right? This is Genesis chapter 40. This is Genesis chapter 28. And I'm going to start at verse Genesis chapter 49. And I'm going to say verse number, this is Genesis chapter 29 and verse number 16, right? It says, and Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. So there was 2 daughters of Laban, right? Leah and Rachel, right? Verse number 17, it says, Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored, right? So Leah, she kind of had that older age to her now, right? She was kind of tender-eyed. She might have had a couple of wrinkles now, right? But Rachel, right, she was beautiful and well-favored, meaning she was well to look upon, right? She was a bit younger, being the younger sister, right? Verse number 18, it says, and Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. So out the gate, right, Jacob told Laban, Rachel's father, that he'll be willing to serve 7 years for Rachel, man, right? Willing to put in that work, right, for Rachel. Verse number 19, it says, and Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me, right? So Laban, right, Rachel's father was like, hey, it's better off that I give her to you than any other man, right? So he kind of said, stay with him, right? Come on and serve these 7 years like you said you was going to do, right? Verse number 20, It says, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had for her. Right? So Jacob worked those 7 years and it only felt like days to him because that's the type of love that he had for Rachel, man. Right? He really wanted Rachel and he was willing to go the step further, even getting her, man. Right? That 7 of number completion, willing to serve for her father for 7 years, man. Right? And it only felt a couple of days to him, man. Right? Now we all know if we working for 7 years, man, right? It don't feel like it don't really feel like a couple days, man. Right? It don't feel like a couple of days. Hey, when them 7 years, you feel them 7 years, man. Right? But to Jacob, hey, it did not feel like 7 years, man. It felt like a couple of days, right? Because he truly loved her. All right. Verse number 21, it says, and Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. Right? So Jacob is like, hey, I served my 7 years, like I said, man. Right? So now it's time for you to hold up the end of your bargain, man. Right? Let me get my wife. Right? Verse number 21. So like it, verse number 22. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him, and he went in unto her. Right? So Laban, amen, he gave Leah instead of Rachel to Jacob, man. And Jacob ended up going in unto her, man. Right? So Jacob asked for Leah. Jacob asked for Rachel, but her father gave the other daughter, the older daughter, which was Leah, to Jacob. Right? Verse number 24, it says, and Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said unto Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? Hey, so Jacob was like, hey, what is this, man? Right? I didn't ask for Leah. Right? I asked for Rachel. I served 7 years, man. Right? And you didn't give me what I asked for. Right? So he's like, hey, why did you beguile me? Why did you lie to me? Right? Verse number 26, it says, and Laban said, it must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. So he's kind of setting things of what goes on in his country or in his household, man. Right? Where it's not their type of way of giving the younger over to wife before the older. So Laban is explaining himself, hey, I had to give my older daughter to you because, hey, that's not how we run things in this family, right? The firstborn has to get married first, right? And that's according to his rules, though, man, right? That's his rules, right? That's Laban's rules, right? So we're gonna keep on going, right? It says, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou hast served with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel, his daughter, to wife also. Right? So after all this went about, right? After Leah was given over to Jacob and he didn't really want Leah, he wanted Rachel, and he had to work another 7 years, man, for Rachel. And then after that, a Rachel was given to Jacob. Now this shows, I ain't gonna lie, this shows something, man. Right? This shows how hard working our forefather Jacob was, man. Because who's willing to work 7 years, right, for a woman that he won't? Right? A lot of brothers, they're not gonna kind of text in the comments right now saying, "Hey, me, nah, man." Right? Who's willing to work 7 years and an extra 7? Right? A total in 14 years. right? Jacob was a very hardworking man, man, right? And when he set his eyes on something, hey, he wanted to go ahead and get it, no matter what, right? That's kind of how we got to be in this truth, man, right? When we set our eyes on this truth, right? When we set our eyes on the Bible in general, and we got to kind of go into it, we got to go 10 times harder, right? We got to put in the extra work to kind of get the understanding, right? Because our forefather, which we come from, right? He was a very hardworking man. So we can't kind of be lazy in this thing, right? We have to be just as hardworking or even more hardworking, man. Right? So verse 29, it says, and Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his handmaid, to be her maid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years. So that's 2 sets of 7 years, man, which is 14 years in total, right? All to get Rachel, the wife that he wanted, right? He worked 7 years. The first 7 years, he thought he was getting Rachel, right? But it didn't go like that, right? The father gave Leah over to him, and he ended up laying down with her, made her his wife, right? And he woke up in the morning like, hey, what is this, man? Who? I thought he went to Laban and said, hey, I thought you were going to give me Leah. Why'd you lie to me? Right? And Laban said, hey, in this household, hey, the firstborn has to be the one to go out and get a husband first. Right? The younger is not to be given over before the first. Right? So in order for him to get Rachel, he would have to work another 7 years, man. Jacob is a very hardworking man. And knowing that we come out of him, man, right? We come from Jacob, also known as Israel. Hey, man, we got to be just as hardworking, man. There might be times, hey, you don't want to go to work, man. I know that feeling, man, right? But ultimately, you got to do what you got to do, right? Brothers, hey, you got a wife, you got kids, and you kind of got to work in this captivity, man. You got to use that money as a tool to provide for the family, right? No matter how hard how much it hurts, man. You kind of got to keep on going each and every day, fighting, right? And that's why even doing this in this captivity, man, working like this, it pushes us to knowing how much more we want our rest, man. How much more we want peace. How much more we want salvation. Because I'm pretty sure every single brother that's within this truth, right, that is keeping the law, statutes, and commandments diligently, and you losing out on sleep, man. Right? But ultimately, that's what's going to happen to you being in this captivity, man, because you need to provide for your family. You need to fight for your family each and every day, right? Just as Jacob fought to get his wife, man. Worked 14 years to get it. Now, some brothers don't even want to work for like an hour, right? Don't want to work for a year, 2 years, 5. Now you're thinking of other ways, man, right? When the Most High provided for you, man, gave you a blessing, right? So we got to be just as hard working as our forefather Jacob, man. This teaches us something, a valuable lesson, right? But read it on, right? Verse 31, it says, and when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Now, this is the problem, man, right? Jacob hated Leah, man. And he loved Rachel, right? He had more love for Rachel than he did for Leah. So being the Most High, right? Being so righteous that he is, he opened up Leah's womb and closed Rachel's womb, right? So Rachel couldn't have children, but Leah could, right? Verse number 32. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben. So Reuben was the firstborn, man. Reuben was the firstborn child, right? So, and Leah conceived. Leah had the first child, man, of Jacob. right? For she said, surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me, right? And you know, hey, this probably sparked something in Jacob, man, because hey man, I don't have children right now, but I'm sure, hey man, if brothers having their first child, right, that kind of that's it's still something in your mind, man, right? Like this is a beautiful thing, right? This is your offspring, right? You begat this son or daughter, man, right? And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord have heard that I was hated, he have therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon, right? So Simeon, right, was the second born child of Israel. Now this is dealing with Leah, because Leah at this time was the only one that was able to have children at the time, right? So first it was Reuben, now it's Simeon, right? Verse number 34. And she conceived again and bare a son, and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him three sons. Therefore was his name called Levi, right? So Levi was the third born child of Israel, man. Right? So they having children back to back, man. Right? They having children. And this is a beautiful thing, man. Right? There's no point in time that we should be in this truth saying, hey, I don't want to have children. Right? I don't want this, I don't want that. Nah, man. The things you don't want, especially when it's righteous in the eyes of the Most High, he'll end up making it happen, man. I'm experienced. I got some experience in that, man. All right? If it's in righteousness and you don't want it, the Most High God gonna give it over to you. He gonna show you better. He can tell you, hey, this is the righteous thing, right? Having children is a righteous thing. It's not bad to have a wife, man. Right? Bearing all these children and you leaving an inheritance, man. Right? You're leaving on generations and generations because we still got time in this captivity, man. A lot of us be saying, hey, Lord willing, we out of here in a year. Hey, for real, Lord willing, right? If it's of the Most High's will, but us understanding the prophecies, hey, man, it's not going to be a year. It's not. Even though we understand that we getting closer to World War III now, right? Famine, FEMA camps. But there's a lot more plagues that's supposed to come upon the earth, right? There's supposed to be a time of the Gentiles where, hey, there's a time where the Israelites going to be on the run, man. And I see a lot of Israelites out here comfortable. We can't be comfortable in this truth, man. We got to constantly have our mind set on the kingdom. Seek ye the kingdom of God, man. That's the first thing you got to do. And everything else will be added unto you. All right? So we got to keep our mind on the kingdom, man. No matter what. Having children, hey, it's for the kingdom, man. It's for Yahweh Shemel Shai. Right? I'm gonna make sure my child, he grow up, hey, to be that mighty man of the Lord. Keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Not being led astray into the world or the doctrines of the world, or learning the commandments of men. Right? All of us should be wanting, if you having children, you should want your children to be up in this truth, man, no matter what. Don't let Esau's schools kind of change your child, man. It's coming, hey, how school's going right now, hey, homeschooling might be the best thing, man. Homeschooling might be the best thing. Because at this point, they're not even teaching our children, man. At this point, they know they doing what they do best. They keeping our people in sin. And our children are the next generation, man. Our children gonna do bigger and better things better than we ever could, man. And ultimately, the Most High God is gonna deal with them on a whole different level. So we gotta steer our children into the right direction, man. Right? If there would be one slip up within the school, man, hey, you kind of got to take your kid out of there, man. Right? Hey, man, there's a lot of stuff going in the schools, man. Right? I don't want to say too much because you know how YouTube be getting down nowadays, but there's a lot of things going on within our children's schools, and we kind of need to stay watch on it. And if you see a constantly high, you might as well get them up out of that school, man. Homeschool. If your rib is a stay at home mom, hey sis, hey brother, homeschooling might be that choice, man. Right? Because at this time, things was going pretty well, man. Right? With Leah and Jacob, right? With Rachel and Jacob, things was going pretty well, right? We were on top, right? But reading on, right? Verse 35. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah and left bearing. So Judah was the fourth born son, child of Israel, man. The fourth born. And it says, and left bearing, right? So after that, after the fourth child, she wasn't having no more children, right? 4 was it, right? For Leah, right? But as we have the understanding, there was more children that was made. Now we're gonna kind of get into that of how those other children came about, right? So this is Genesis chapter 30 and verse number 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children or else I die. Right? So, Rachel, she grew kind of jealous, man. Because, her older sister was having children and she couldn't. Now, we understand how those emotions go, right? She could have been going crazy, man. Right? She was very angry. Right? Because she couldn't bear children, but her older sister could. Now, who did that? Who did that? Who closed up Rachel's room and who opened up Leah's room? It was the Most High. So if Rachel is angry, right, or if she's kind of jealous of her sister, right, ultimately that goes against the Most High. What you being jealous of your sister for? It was of the Most High, man. That's a blessing. That's a blessing, man, in the eyes of the Lord. Right? So there's really, I can understand why Rachel would get jealous, but knowing it's of the Most High God, there's no need to get jealous, man. There's no need to get jealous at all. Right? So reading on, verse number 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead? Who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? So, Jacob got angry, man. And you know how Eve get. when she get kind of jealous, she get kind of angry. And that type of energy could be pointed towards the wrong person. Right? So Jacob was angry, man. It was kindled against Rachel. And he said, am I in God's stead? Right? Am I in the place of God? Am I God? Right? Who have withheld from thee the fruit of the womb, who have closed your womb up. So he's kind of reminding her, the Most High did this, man. What you jealous for? Jacob is reminding Rachel, the Most High, he closed your womb up. You know this. So sometimes, sisters got to kind of think, man. Why are you angry? Why are you jealous? Sometimes that's things that gotta be. You gotta ask yourself when you feeling some type of way, man. Why are you angry and why are you jealous? Right? Verse number 3. And she said, Behold, my maid by law, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. Right? So Rachel suggested that Jacob go in unto her handmaid, right? Which was by law, right? She gave a suggestion. Hey, go on to her. Go in unto her to bear me children, right? Verse number 4, it says, And she gave him by law her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went in unto her, right? So Rachel gave her handmaid unto Jacob, and Jacob went in unto her, man. All right? And by law conceived and bare Jacob a son. Hey, so by law is having a child, right? So at this point, Jacob got 3 wives, right? So I know there'll be a couple things in Israel that, hey, it's off having 3 wives. It's off having multiple wives. But hey, this was righteous in the eyes of the Lord, man. This was righteous in the eyes of the Lord. This was Jacob's 3rd wife. And she bared him children. Now we know if this wasn't righteous in the eyes of the Lord, the Most High would have stopped all this, right? He would have stopped all this. It would have been over with. All right? Verse number 5. And Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. Right? So Dan was what? The 5th son. Right? He was the 5th born son of Israel, of Jacob. Right? From the handmaid Bilhah. Bilhah was the handmaid of Rachel. And Bilhah had the 5th son of Jacob, which was Dan. Right? Verse number 7. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and bare Jacob a 2nd son. Right? So now she conceived again. She's about to have another child. Right? And Rachel said, With great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. Right? So Naphtali was the sixth son, right, of Jacob. Right? You kind of see how Rachel talking between this, right? It's like it says, and Rachel said, With great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. Right? This kind of, hey man, this kind of like, I mean, it could be the meaning of Naphtali, no? The wrestlings of God, right? The wrestlings of God. But she said, I wrestled with my sister and I had prevailed. She kind of saying that she won. But hey man, the jury's out, right? If they wrestle, who won? Nah, no folly, no folly. All right. Verse number 9. And when Leah saw that she had left barren, she took Zipporah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. Hey, so when Leah noticed that she wasn't having no more children, Leah gave over her handmaid to Jacob to wife. Right? So at this point, Jacob has 4 wives. At this point, Jacob has 4 wives because his first wife was Leah, right? His second wife, right, was Rachel, right? He went unto her, but found out she couldn't bear any children, right? So that was his second wife, right? His third wife was Bilhah, the handmaid of Rachel, right? And his fourth wife is the handmaid of Leah, which is Zilpah, right? So Jacob had four wives, man. So this doctrine of saying that having multiple wives is unlawful is out the window. Because if we're saying that having multiple wives is unlawful, are we going to say that Jacob was sinning? Are we going to say that Jacob wasn't going according to the Most High's will? Are we going to say that Jacob was off for having four wives and making the 12 tribes of Israel? Hey, that doctrine is kind of out the window, man. Having multiple wives is not wrong. But brothers do have to use wisdom. When you get multiple wives, right, you need to be able to take care of them. You need to be able to provide, protect them, right? If you can't provide and protect them, there's no reason why a brother should be getting multiple wives, right? Stick with your one wife for now, right? Stick with your one wife for now, man. If it's of the Most High's will, he'll send you over another wife. That's if it's the Most High's will, right? But you'll know if it's not of the Most High's will. If you just out here just looking. Just out here looking, man. Like just sniffing out. Just, hey, I want her. 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 Like, no, brother. Kind of just got to sit back. Let the Most High work, man. And you'll see, playing upon tables when you observe, hey, that's what the Most High want me to have, man. Right? I have certain things in place where I could take on 2, 3 wives now. See, but let the Most High work, man. This is the Most High working right here, man. He said we were going to be the sands of the sea. That was giving the blessing over. That Jacob's seed will be the sands of the sea, man. The stars of heaven. So, in other words, being a multitude. Right? So with him having 4 wives, it's for sure that he is going to have a multitude, man. He was going to have a multitude. Right? So verse number 8. And Rachel said, with great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. Naphtali was the 6th son of Jacob, right? Reading on. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. So Jacob now has a 4th wife, right? Which is Zilpah, the handmaid of Leah, right? Verse number 10. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. So now, the handmaid of Leah, right, Zilpah, she's now conceived with a child, right? And Leah said, a troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. Gad is the 7th son, right? The 7th son of Jacob. Hey, this is mighty so far, man. This is mighty. This is the making of the sons of Jacob, man. This is mighty. Seeing the things that Jacob had to go through just to get his wife. Just to get his wife that he wanted. He had to work 14 years, man. And now, he's still putting in work, man. He's making children. Right? And with all these children, he's providing for them, man. We know that for a fact. All right? Reading on. Verse number 12. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a 2nd son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. So Asher, right, was the 8th son. Right? He was the 8th son. Right? And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes, right? We're going to jump down, right? We're going to jump down to verse number 17, right? And God hearkened unto Leah. So like in verse number 16. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the fifth son. Right? So now this is another son of Jacob, man. Right? So far, how many are we counting, man? Right? How many children are we counting? Right? So the firstborn, right? The firstborn was Reuben, right? That was one. 2 was Simeon. 3 was Levi. 4 was Jacob. 5 was Dan. 6 was Naphtali, right? 7 is Gad. 8 is Asher. And number 9, right? Number 9, it says, verse number 18, it says, And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband, and she called his name Issachar. Right? So Issachar was the 9th child of Jacob now. Jacob is leaving that inheritance, man. Right? Jacob is definitely leaving that inheritance. Jacob doing his thing right now, right? With the help of his wives. All praises to the Most High. Right? This is a beautiful thing. This is something to look upon, right? And to actually think about. Right? You should want this, man. He kind of has some children, man. Right? Aren't we in Jeremiah? It says, hey, man, build ye houses, plant vineyards, have children. Hey, we still got to be fruitful and multiply in this captivity, man. Right? The Most High God has given us a certain type of peace within this captivity. Now, some is not going to understand that. But that's when you got to really get into the scriptures a bit more, right? With planting vineyards, building ye houses, and having children, and searching out the peace of the city. Hey, man, there's a little bit. Hey, there's some mercy here in captivity, man. The Most High has given us He has given us mercy within our captivity, right? So, hey, man, we got to go right along with it. We got to have those children. We got to build houses, man. We got to take on some land. We got to have some gardens out here, man. Hey, because the stores are finished, right? The stores are finished, right? The famine is on the way, man. You're not going to go into your local grocery store, kind of buy up all the fruits and vegetables, man. Right? You got some chicken wings there, man. Right? You're not gonna be able to whip up the rice that you want. Hey, man. Yeah, hey, for the wives, you ain't gonna. Hey, your husband not gonna be able to have the eggs in the morning, man. Right? Or the pancakes, man. The turkey sausage, man. The beef bacon. Ain't gonna be no more of that right now, man. With that famine hidden. That's why we need our own things right now, man. Hey, brothers got to kind of get a chicken farm, man. Right? We kind of need to plant vineyards, man. Get some gardens. We need to get some land. Right? Because even that is prophesied, man. Even those are prophecies. Right? What happens in that scripture, I believe it's in Isaiah, where, hey, ye shall be hungry, but my servants will eat. Ye shall be thirsty, but my servants will drink. Right? Hey, man, how are we going to eat and drink in a famine? We must have to have our own things. We have to, man. We got to think about it in the near future, man. Don't get too comfortable in this captivity. This is not the time to get comfortable in your captivity, man. This is a time to kind of buckle down on things, man. Get kind of serious, right? Get back to your first ways, man. Being as diligent and consistent as possible, man. Because that's what's needed in this truth. Diligent consistency, man. Endurance, long suffering. Hey, because all hell's getting ready to break loose, man. All hell is getting ready to break loose. So it's time to get ready. All right? So Issachar was the ninth child, right? And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endowed me with good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him six sons. And she called his name Zebulun. Zebulun is not a 10th, right? The 10th child, right? It says that the sixth child, the sixth son, because that's how many children Leah had alone. 6 children, right? But in totality, between Leah, Zilpah, and Bilhah, right? The 2 handmaids and Leah, right? They all had 10 children in total, right? Verse number 21. And afterwards she bare a daughter and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb. Right? So with this period of time, this was most likely a period of time of humbling Rachel, man. Right? This is a humbling point for Rachel, right? Because at first Rachel was jealous, right? She was jealous, and we know how two sisters go. Even with 2 brothers, man. The oldest and the youngest, one is going to be jealous to the other, right? So this was a humbling point for Rachel, but at this point in time, now the Most High God has heard her and opened her womb after Dinah was born, which was Dinah is the only daughter, right? Within 11 boys, right? All praise the Yahweh Shem Shah, right? So verse number 22, and God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. Man. Right? So Rachel has finally had a son. She finally conceived at this point. After 10 children, right? After 11 children, right? She finally bare a son, which was Joseph. Now, this appointed time, like I said, it was that humbling point. Had to kind of bring her down low with closing up her womb, having her wait and be patient, huh? We know with dealing with the Most High, he don't just give you things like that. He'll make you wait and be patient. So in this appointed time, right, Rachel had to be patient, and she very well was, with the Most High God remembering her and hearkening to her cries, man. Right? So now she had a son, and Joseph was that son. Right? Verse number 25. And it came to pass when Rachel had borne Joseph that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away that I may go unto my own place and go to my own country. Now, Jacob is asking to leave, man. Right? Jacob at this point feels like, hey, he accomplished what he needs to accomplish. Right? He has his sons. He has his ribs. Hey, man, he's ready to get his own. He's ready to get his own house, right? Get his own land, right? And start building on certain things for him and his family, right? I'm going to jump down, right? Verse number 29. It says, and he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hast before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude, and the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? Right? So Jacob is telling Laban, right? Rachel and Leah's father, that, hey, I increased your cattle, right? With the 17 years that Jacob worked, he increased a multitude of cattle for Laban, right? The father of Leah and Rachel, right? He said, hey, when he first came, Laban had nothing but a little, but now he has a lot. He has an increase. He has a multitude of much cattle. So uh so Jacob is asking, when shall I provide for my own house also? So when is he gonna be able to fend for himself, right? Be able to go out, have his own house, have his own land, have his own cattle, and provide and feed his family, no? Right? 31. Verse 31, it says, and he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. Right? So at first, Jacob didn't want anything, right? He told him, thou shalt not give me anything. Right? Reading on. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. Right? So there was a multitude of flocks of cattle, man, right? Among the sheep, right? The spotted and speckled, right? So it wasn't all of the perfect, right? But it was still cattle, right? So Jacob told Laban that he would continue to feed him, right? He'll keep the flock, he'll keep it going, right? So jumping down to verse 33, right? So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come from my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. Right? So there's a separation between the cattle, right? With the spotted, the speckled, right, and the brown, where Jacob was willing to take those, right, and keep the rest with Laban, right? So Laban would have much of the perfect cattle, right? And Jacob was willing to take the speckled and the spotted, right? Verse number 34. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy words. So basically, he agreed, right? Laban agreed with the suggestion, right? Verse 35. And he removed that day the he goats that were range stacked and spotted, and all the she goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in them, in it, Salakia, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons, right? So with this cattle uh that Jacob now has from Laban, right? He gave it over to his sons, right? The things that he kind of gathered up throughout his works, and he giving it now to his sons, right? Verse 36, and he said 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. So Jacob fulfilled the rest of the time that he had with Laban or for Laban, right? He still continued to feed his cattle, right? And he fulfilled that time, right? Verse number 37, and Jacob took him rods of green poplar and the hazel and chestnut tree and pale white strecks in them and made the white appear which was in the rods, right? Jumping down to verse, let me see what I want. Verse I'm going to jump down to verse number 43, right? And the man, Salakia, verse 41. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle and the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. So at this time, they're making more cattle, right? Jacob is making more cattle, right? Verse 42. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maid servants, and manservants, and camels, and asses. So Jacob made sure that Laban was straight, right? Laban's cattle increased from what Jacob was doing. And ultimately, Jacob got what he wanted, where he had cattle, and he was able to provide for his children, for his wives, and he ended up getting his own land, man. So this teaches us as men a valuable lesson that, hey, man, we got to be hardworking. We got to become hardworking. We can't get kind of comfortable, man, where we at, and we got to keep on grinding, man. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep going. And this is a valuable lesson to the sisters. Hey, sisters can't be out here damn angry and jealous, man, and kind of taking it out on the brothers, right? Sisters can't kind of be out here, not being obedient and submissive to their husband, man. Leah and Rachel, in a way, were in order, man, right? With conceiving these children, right? And with conceiving these children, hey, man, you got to stay in order, right? You kind of got to reverence your husband, man, because, both need each other to make a child, right? So everything has to be put back in order, right? Everything has to stay in order. And Lord, and that's what we're trying to do as building up a nation, is keep everything in order, right? Because when the righteous are in rulership, the people gonna rejoice, right? And that's Proverbs chapter 29 and verse number 2. Because everything is going to be set back in order when the righteous are back in rulership. That's why everybody's gonna rejoice. So as us coming into this truth, we have to keep everything in order, right? We have to understand with our forefather Jacob that he was a very hardworking man, right? And then the making of the 12 tribes, or the children of Jacob, is mighty, man. There's no problem with having multiple wives, man, but you have to use wisdom, right? There's no problem in having children still while you're in captivity, man. Now, I understand some brothers won't, some brothers will. Hey, man, not knocking. But ultimately, when the Most High brings it upon you, you kind of can't reject it, man. Right? You kind of got to go with the flow, man, because it's of the Most High God, right? And you don't want to reject nothing of the Most High God, right? So I hope that everybody that was watching this live was edified through the scriptures, right? In the power of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? Let's continue to keep the commandments, have faith in Yahweh Shem Shai, and continue to endure in these last days, family, right? Because we definitely going to need it, right? So mighty shalom to everybody that's on the live. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yahweh Shem Shai, Shalom, Israel. Love y'all.